Welcome to the Healing Practice Podcast, a space for navigating the natural seasons of womanhood and personal growth. Hosted by Claire Cleaver, author, counsellor, and practitioner, this podcast explores the key stages of womanhood, from the first bloom of puberty, through fertility and birth, to the powerful transition of perimenopause and menopause. Drawing on years of experience supporting women and families, Claire shares practical insights and reflective tools designed to restore balance, release what's been held, and support emotional and physical well-being. This podcast is about listening, understanding, and walking your path with greater clarity and compassion. Wherever you are on your journey, you're welcome here.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Practice Podcasts. I'm Claire and thank you for listening. So today we're going to talk about the biological need for rest in the second spring. And what we mean about the second spring is also perimenopause and menopause, the second spring. The first spring being the first bloom, adolescence, puberty. And the second spring is a very interesting phase of a woman's life for lots of reasons. And it's much more topical than it ever used to be. And there's information and education around it, which makes it such a lovely topic to talk about, to validate and to honor the experiences of a woman going through perimenopause and menopause, although it might not seem like that's actually what's happening, especially for the woman herself. But there are some very good high points to think about that will come your way if they haven't quite come your way as yet. And at the same time, there are quite a few low points. So that's very much the wax and wane, the cyclic up and down, ebb and flow, which is completely typical and normal for any woman because she has a cycle. Therefore, her life follows the flow of her cycle. And when she's going through perimenopause, she starts to notice that her cycle is no longer as regular as it used to be. And when she goes through menopause, that cycle ends. But what she's then responsive to is the lunar cycles. And that's the way a woman's body works. And so it is an extraordinary thing that women will always have this lifelong connection from the first period that they have to the last period and beyond that we respond to our cycles. And when that cycle no longer happens, we are responding to the lunar cycles. And so when I learned that, I just was full of surprise, because I didn't know that, and joy that we are these wonderful creatures that are so tuned in, yet we often don't know it. And that's the point of listening to podcasts like this one, to get to know some new interesting piece of information that you didn't know about before. So your job is, as a woman, at no matter what phase of life, but particularly this one, is to go check out what your moon is doing. Right now, it's almost a half moon. And so the half moon is going through the follicular, so it's nearly at ovulation, I think. And so it's very interesting to have a point of focus to follow you through life in this way, a guide that's bigger than you, and to know that other women in your friend zone, in your community, are likely to be experiencing the same things. And if they aren't, to bring this into the conversation, because women are so good at growing bonds, much more than men do. Men like to sit on the periphery or not engage at all, or have friendships with their men friends, but are less driven to really foster and grow bonds among other women. And that's partly because we are mothers, and if we are not mothers, we still have this great need to foster connection with other women. So strengthening the roots, and this is the nervous system, good old nervous system, intergenerational healing. And intergenerational healing, when I think about, that's almost a subject on its own, because that is big. When there is trauma, And for instance, the previous podcast, I talked about the body keeps the score in birth. And if that trauma is not processed in a healthy way, then that will start the seeds of trauma. And that trauma can then become intergenerational trauma. And you can see how that would work. That woman then has fear around the process of birth, whether she has more babies or not, which will then feed into those birth experiences. Those feelings that have been unprocessed or partially processed will then be fed in to her children, and so on it goes. So there is a real responsibility in understanding how you are, how you're operating, what is not working for you, and what to do about it. But the main objective of this podcast is to help peri and menopausal women recognize the full value of rest. I'm just going to rest there for an extra pause, because for the most part, we women are not very good at allowing ourselves to rest. We think there's something wrong with us if we are resting, being lazy, hanging about, not doing anything that's valuable, not contributing to the day, to our children, to our workplace, to whatever, to our husband's well-being, our partner's well-being, that we should not be resting or slacking off. But the point is that when our bodies and minds and all of our hormonal systems, our overworked endocrine systems, are constantly pushing through to accomplish things that we think are important or we prioritize, there's no suitable rest phase. We do not come back to zero, a neutral space. And in perimenopause and menopause, we need more rest because our hormones are changing. We don't have the same amount of estrogen and testosterone, for that matter. And that's why often women think, oh, I'm not keeping up. I'll have to go and get some HRT. And you'll find that if you report to the doctor with levels of fatigue and all sorts of mood disorders and joint disorders and hot flushes and you name it, the list goes on and on, then they will happily and readily prescribe you some kind of HRT or to see somebody who will recommend you that. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but often all of that is designed to keep you going, to keep you producing, to keep you operating at a rate that your body is actually telling you, we don't want to do it like this anymore. We can't. And that's why our hormones, your hormones, my hormones, are all operating at a different amount, at a different speed. And yet we try and push through that by taking something artificial, because these are synthetic. And even if they are the friendly hormones that you can take, it's still pushing you into an artificial state where really, if you just were able to rest more, whatever rest looked like, then you would find more than likely that your body would even out, your mood would even out, all of these symptoms would even out. So let's have a look what we mean by rest. So often that we think, oh, lying down. Nothing wrong with lying down. And this is a topic that I have talked about as well. But nonetheless, let's just very quickly look at what rest means. So there's rest, obviously lying down. There is having a nap, actually stretching out on a sofa. Depending on the weather, it might be catching a few sun rays, which I quite like that expression, a few sun rays. So in winter, I like to follow the sun around as it goes from east through to north. So I track the sun, especially if it's too cold and I don't want to go outside. I'll track the sun through my window and I'll sit there and feel the full warmth of the sun on my face and get a few sun rays. So if you live somewhere where it's warmer, definitely do that, because the sun will just irradiate your body, give you warmth, and that will give you vitamin K and all of the good stuff that we need. So that's a form of resting, where you allow yourself to do something that is beneficial for your body. And that's probably the expression, what is beneficial for me today to do? Other ways of resting, apart from being still in your body, are yoga, tasks that you allocate for yourself out of your busy day. I've got yoga on the schedule, or I've got Pilates on the schedule. And these activities, or whatever it is, it might even be weights, swimming, ideally low impact, that gives you joy, so that you aren't working, oh, I have to be fit, I have to do this. And there is effort involved, and there is a lot of pushing. And so when we talk about rest, we want to identify activities that are a little bit more restful. So work out what that might be for you. Swimming, walking, obviously. Meditation, not everyone's cup of tea. Some people are greatly bored by meditation, and they question that they're doing it correctly. Fair enough. So I trained as a Buddhist psychotherapist, and that was a question that was constantly being bandied from all of us. How do we know we're meditating? How long is it supposed to take? What does meditation look like? When we're doing this, are we meditating? What's our body? Are we still thinking when we're meditating? And the fascinating answer is that we never reach a peak of what's called nirvana. That never happens. There is a point where we feel free from our thoughts for about 10 seconds, 30 seconds maybe. But then we're generally using some other means to help us focus away from our feelings. And that's likely to be breathing, a focal point, whether it's inside our body or external, or chanting, or we're focusing on a picture, an image, but then that becomes like visualization. So meditation, when you take it away from the strict understanding of what people think is meditation, is extraordinarily flexible and broad. So practice the parameters. And meditation is just being still. To expect our mind to be still, that's naive, because it just doesn't happen. And all the best meditators will tell you that. So relax, you are doing it correctly, whatever way you are doing it. When a woman is in perimenopause, she's starting to experience the changes in her periods. They're the most obvious ones. And if she's a mother and she's likely to have children, daughters and boys, sons, that are going through puberty, depending on their ages. And that seems almost wrong to have all these competing hormones going on in the same house. It's like, what? How's a person going to survive all of that? Yet, of course, we do. And I guess the sad thing about all of those competing hormones and needs is that back in the day, we had extended families. And those extra family members in the extended family unit generally included grandparents, maybe even an auntie that had children or was unmarried, more likely to be useful than an uncle, but that's not fair to say. That there was an extendedness to the family that the family of origin could tap into. Would be there as an extra resource to help take away some of the load and excess responsibility of the perimenopausal woman being solely responsible, along with her husband, of course, or partner, for the well-being of everyone in the house at the same time. So when a woman is in her 40s and she's experiencing all of this and she doesn't have that extra help, she is likely to experience what feels like to her a breaking point. And that breaking point is often medicalized as, oh, yes, it's all very normal, but that's all very well to say. And then maybe you could consider, a bit early to say, but maybe you need some hormones, maybe not. Maybe a woman starts to feel that she's depressed because she's so freaking angry a lot. And she has these sudden mind bursts that frighten her, including her children, including her partner, who then all make her seem like there's something wrong with her. And that is when education can be useful. There isn't anything wrong with you. You are going through a change. Just like your adolescent children are going through a change, they are not little bundles of joy for a lot of it when they are going through their pubescent changes. They have great mood spikes, high and low. And a woman similarly is going through her own. But because she is the adult in the room, she is expected to hold everybody else's moods just right. So it's important to get support. You cannot be the only one holding the mood and the space in the room. And you are allowed and entitled to flip out, to be this angry, irritable woman who needs to call time on, I need rest right now. And if rest is not the word that sits well with you, then you need to call it something else. Time out. I quite like time out. I need time out from all of you guys. I love you all, and I need time out. And you need to work out what that looks like. That is your job. What does time out look like for me? And to make sure that you are quite rigid about that, because it's very easy to relapse on keeping a boundary around that. So when I use the word boundaries at home, everyone gets very irritated. They're allowed to have boundaries, but I am not. And so I'm quite firm about boundaries. And you need to understand what your boundaries are and keep them in place. Because if you don't, then your family will just trample all over them. So that's an important thing to hold. Tools that women can employ to help calm their nervous system. And I've already talked about a few of those. They don't really differ. It's just about doing them. Sometimes women go, oh, I'm too busy. Okay, and that's part of the problem. So if you prioritize other people's busyness over yours, then you will constantly be feeling tired, overwhelmed, overcome, ready to spit the dummy. And that's such a useful little phrase, spit the dummy. Toddlers do it. Teenagers do it. Perimenopausal women, they do it. Unsupporting husbands or unaware husbands, they do it. Everyone spits the dummy. That's just a symptom of, oh, I'm overwhelmed right now and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to self-soothe. I don't know how to bring myself back to this space of neutrality. Apart from the sandwich generation gap, which is what we call that, I think when a woman goes through perimenopause and menopause, that's like the late 40s, the 50s. That's an important time for her to gather support around her. And it can't be her family because she's working hard being of service to her family in so many ways, whether she has a job or not, and more than likely mothering is a job. She needs to gather around her a good group of women friends that she can hang out with. And hang out with is the appropriate word. To schedule times of dinner or lunch, and dinner is nice. So everyone at home has to sort themselves out. She sets up once a fortnight, once a month or something like that. You go to some nice place. You allow yourself to have a few drinks, something that's exciting, a play, or doesn't have to be all focused around your family. You are allowed and entitled to have other friends outside of your family, other interests that don't include your family. And this is the time when women start actually circulating outside of their home, which has pretty much been their domain, their unique castle, if you like, their space for so many years. Women at this age want to break out. And you need to break out. You need to expand yourself and extend yourself beyond your family, and to not feel any guilt whatsoever. To relate back to all of these feelings that are bubbling up. I'm experiencing all of these feelings because I'm not doing enough for myself. And those feelings will settle and soften when you start to discover that you can do more for yourself outside of the family. It might feel like you might feel guilty about that, but you are recalibrating the next phase of your life beyond your family. So it's coming back to who you are in that second spring, the new woman past family concerns and responsibilities, in a way that men never have to, because they don't live according to a cycle, whether it's your menses cycle or the lunar cycle. So they don't get to understand that. Women have to live a little differently, and they have to do less of the giving to others, which keeps them stuck in the home and the confines of what they are providing. So that is what I would suggest. Menopause isn't a problem to be fixed. It's this natural phase of life that women need to accept and go, yeah, I'm cranky today. Boy, oh boy, am I cranky today. And I'm just going to be cranky today, because the problem is when you suppress those cranky feelings, they don't really go away and just stay in there until more cranky feelings come on board. And then they just erupt at often an inappropriate moment. And then you are deemed, oh my goodness, what's wrong with her? Then you become the problem. So don't do that to yourself. But the thing is, you have to do it initially to go, a little bit of internal reflection. If I naturally combust without the build-up of combustion, then maybe that would feel better to me. So allow your feelings to surface. Notice what they are. Let them come up. Oh, I'm feeling combustible, and someone's going to cop it unless I can let this out. So allow yourself to express yourself. Throat articulation, vagus nerve, telling you what's going on. Chest compression, holding it in, dare and breathe. Let it go. Breathe in deeply. Gut, abdomen, pelvis. So honoring that part of your body. Letting good feelings happen rather than tightness and negativity and the bad feelings of annoyance and overburdened and overworked and underappreciated. Let them come up and express them regularly and frequently. And you'll find that you continue to feel a lot better, and that you will like yourself so much more. You'll begin to appreciate yourself. Gosh, I'm a really nice person. I just need to let out this stuff more. Yes. Look yourself in the mirror. Give yourself the deep-eyed look in the mirror. Yes, I am really a good person, and I really like her a lot. That's what I would suggest. And there has been talk about magnesium. Look, there is so many as a spark plug to making a woman's body feel better and her emotional needs, and certainly her hormonal needs. And that is true. But for that, I would suggest that you see a nutritionist, a naturopath, a person who is well versed in the right type of magnesium to take, because there's so many different types. And magnesium is the counter to calcium, for instance. And in perimenopause and menopause, we talk about women needing more calcium to meet their bone needs. But you need to have the right amount of magnesium to support calcium to make sure you're getting the right amount. So for that, I would suggest, as I said, nutritionist, naturopath, that's their area of expertise, to assist you, to make you feel the blooming, wonderful woman that you want to be and would like to be in perimenopause and menopause. So thank you for listening, and I do hope this has been helpful for you. And by all means, reach out for other support that I would love to help you with. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Healing Practice podcast with Claire Cleaver. If today's episode resonated, you're invited to continue the journey with Claire beyond the podcast. You'll find books, guided resources, workshops, and opportunities to work with Claire one-to-one at thehealingpractice.com.au. Whether you're seeking support, understanding, or a deeper connection to the season of life you're in, there's space there to explore at your own pace. Until next time, trust your body's wisdom, honour where you are, and move gently through the season you're living.